Okay, what's up, boys? This is Igor from Bonk Boys and Ball, and today I'm in the studio with Linda, Chris, and Annie. And together we are Earth's mightiest heroes against bullshit in sport. So for today's roundup, we're going to chat a bit about the Cricket World Cup and the Proteas place or the place we used to have in it. Then we're going to take a preemptive look at Wimbledon. And then lastly, we're going to chat a bit about the Crusaders' Super Rugby triumph. So let's kick it off firstly. Let's chat a bit about the World Cup.
There's lots of pressure here for the skippy, eh? He's going to let his whole country down now if he fails. Lots of expectations, fellas. Come on. Oh man, the weight of all these expectations, fellas.
Obviously we know the Proteas went home pretty early. So what I want to ask my expert panelists is, where did it go wrong for us?
Thank you, Igor. Firstly, I think it went wrong for us in our mindset, our attitude that we took into the World Cup. This has been a big problem for South Africa. 2 years ago in the ICC Championship, the same thing happened. Negative tactics, negative mindset, and all the players just seemed like they were batting for places, bowling for places. We went into the tournament with some X-Factor players like Quinton de Kock, and it was just like he was batting with shackles on.
So you're saying it doesn't have really a lot to do with the players, it's just tactics?
Well, let's be honest, I don't think, if you look on paper, I don't think we have one of the two best teams in the world, but I definitely do think we have the potential to give those teams a good scare, a good run for their money, and at least, compete for semi-final places. What happened here was a bit of a disgrace for South Africa. There's no doubt about it. I do think that they have sufficient talent to run these teams close, but their mindset, the tactics, and you have to ask yourself, does it come from the coaching staff, or is it just the players that are frightened? If you look at our first 10 overs, I think that's the best demonstration of what I'm trying to say. Is the first 10 overs we averaged around about 4 runs over in the first 10 overs, and with guys like Quinton de Kock, Hashim Amla, stroke players, that is not what we used to. We watch them day in, day out, and they always attacking, always taking the game to the opposition, and the first 10 overs were just lackluster. We found ourselves in situations we were 40 for 0 after 10 overs or 80 for 1 after 20 overs, which puts a lot of pressure on people like Faf du Plessis, JP Duminy and David Millen, those players coming in to increase the scoring rate. I think going forward, if you look at the teams that are left, India, New Zealand, Australia and England, those are all teams that take it to the opposition, put them under pressure. As they say, the best form of defense is attack, and that's what those 4 teams do. They go out with a positive mindset and they play their strokes, they express themselves. I think we as Africans need to take a hard good look at ourselves and say that we have to back our talent, we have to back the team culture we are in and your fellow player. And that's the way I think South Africa can turn this thing around. It won't be easy, it will take a long time, but I think with good preparation, our outlook on the World Cup from now, in all our planning, we can actually compete again at the highest level.
Yes, I agree with you there, but I also think, like, in the specific case of de Kock, like, for me personally, Hashim Amla was not good enough to go to this World Cup. He was not in good form before the World Cup, and they used the start of the World Cup to get him into form and to get him to make some runs. And from the start, de Kock was under pressure because he knew he couldn't lose his wicket because Amla is going to be there, and if he stays there, he's going to have 20 from 50 balls, and that's going to be a success for him because he spent some time at the wicket. So I just feel that they picked Amla for his experience, and I was at the start of the World Cup, I was the first one to back that decision, but I just feel he didn't come through for us at all.
I would like to add is I feel South Africa's major shortcoming is their all-rounders. We lack a world-class all-rounder, batting all-rounder or a bowling all-rounder. If you look at the top 4 teams at the moment playing semi-final, they all have proper all-rounders. If you look at England, Ben Stokes, and in India, Hardik Pandya, and Jadeja, and Australia, Stoinis and Kortenaar, and so on. Unfortunately, we have Morris and Pelukwayo and Dwayne Proteas, and they're up to standard in my opinion. That's certainly an aspect we're going to have to look at, and maybe, yeah.
I would just like to end off. World Cups get won by world class batsmen, world class bowlers, and world class all rounders. But if you do not have a world class all rounder, you might as well pick a world-class batsman or bowler. I think we as South Africans, again, in our mindset, in our tactics, we see that we don't have enough. If we pick 7 batsmen, we don't have enough bowlers. If we pick 5 top-class bowlers, we don't have enough batsmen. And we end up picking 3 all-rounders that are bits and pieces cricketers at the moment. I'm not saying it's not going to change, but it's a tactic to prolong your batting lineup and to extend your bowling lineup. But those 3 players aren't going to win you World Cup. Players averaging 20 with the bat and averaging 35 with the ball, those are not players that are going to win you World Cups. You want players that are going to, under pressure, perform, get hundreds, or get 5 wickets, or take an amazing catch under pressure. And the problem is, in South Africa, we want to cover all bases, even though we don't have that world-class all-rounder that will help us to do that. So you do have to pick your best 6 batsmen. You do have to pick your 5 best bowlers in situations where you don't have a world-class all-rounder. I think if you have a perfect combination, you'll have 6 of your best batsmen, 4 of your best bowlers, and 1 all-rounder world-class that can do it both. And I think on our tactics that we went in, we were scared on both sides to underperform, and we picked 3. At times we played with 3 all-rounders. We were all bits and pieces cricketers. And we did the same thing we did in the 2015 World Cup. We picked someone like Ferran Biardine and JP Duminy. And those are players that bowl 5 overs, they go for 35 runs, they don't pick up wickets, and when they come into the bat, you can rely on them for 20, 25 runs. But those aren't the players that are going to score you hundreds under pressure. And I think as South Africans, we need to look at that. We need to invest in 1 or 2 all-rounders domestically, saying we are going to prepare them for the next World Cup 4 years from now, bat them high up in the order, bowl them high up in the lineup in the domestic system, invest in them. So hopefully you'll have 1 world-class all-rounder in 4 years' time, and then definitely pick your 4 best bowlers and your 6 best batsmen, because world-class batsmen and bowlers win you tournaments, not bits and pieces cricketers. I think that's also a tactic that we have to go. If you look at India now, they've got 1 proper all-rounder in Pandya, but they always back themselves with their 4 front-line bowlers. Even if they all average below 10, they'll pick them every single time of the day. Hardik Pandya bats 6 sometimes for India, and you won't. In South Africa, we'll be reluctant to bat him 6 because we'll be afraid to play him at 6. Thinking of attacking, having a positive mindset, and going into tournaments, backing ourselves, backing our batsmen and backing our bowlers. Because you're not going to have the perfect team. It's very scarce that you have a perfect lineup with perfect balance. So you have to pick your best 11 players on the field. And it has to start today, working for a 4-year plan, and that is the only way it can be done.
And moving on from that point from Henny is, Chris, where does the Proteas go now? How do we not win? I think that's a tall ask. How do we approach the next World Cup to give ourselves the best chance of winning it?
Like Henny said, I think you should invest. I like a good all-rounder, so I'll invest in 2 all-rounders, 2 young all-rounders, probably Pelukwayo and
Pelukwayo's got a 38 average, which is not bad at all.
Yeah, it's exactly. So you can develop these guys, and hopefully they can become world class all-rounders. And then I think there should be a total shake-up of the squad. Players like Hashim Amla, Tahir, Delstein, Faf du Plessis, JP Dumini, all those players will need to retire or be dropped or whatever from the squad, and you're going to have to invest in young talent and try and develop them in the next 4 years.
Yes, for me, like, it's hard to see how this happened, because 3 years ago, Markram and Rabada won the Under-19 World Cup, and that shows you that the talent is there. There's no lack of talent for the young cricketers in South Africa, but somewhere along the line we lose these guys, or I don't know. Maybe you guys have an opinion on that, but I don't know what happens, because from that winning Under-19 team, it's now Markram and Rabada, and both had a shocking, no, okay, I won't say shocking, but a really average World Cup. And we expect, like, I had at the start of the World Cup, I thought there were 3 guys in our team that had to step up for us to have a chance at this World Cup, and it was Rabada, Tahir, and de Kock. And I can honestly say Tahir did well. He did solid. Rabada and de Kock, for me, were nowhere. And maybe it's because they know there's so much pressure on them, and they just can't handle it, or I really don't know. But from here, I agree with you guys, but it seemed at a stage in this World Cup, and since, I don't want to say it, but since Jacques Kallis retired, we haven't had a proper all-rounder. We haven't had a batting, someone can average 45, 50 and bowl 8 overs and only go for 4 over and pick up his 2 wickets. We haven't had that in any of them. And even Kallis, who was a batting all-rounder, was a better bowler than our bowling all-rounders are now. So for me, there's no balance in our squad now. And I agree with you guys. We have to somehow, like, pick young guys from, like, identify young guys from school or from university or somewhere.
I agree, and I also completely disagree. I think 4 years ago we said, we should develop a couple of young players and get them ready for the World Cup, and we did that with Rabada, and we did that with Markram, and we did that with de Kock, and we tried to do that with Proteas. I mean, Andries Nortje has been great. So we've done it with about 4 or 5 players. I think obviously they also looked at Petlekwayo and they looked at Pretoria. So I don't think the problem is necessarily with the development. I think our domestic cricket is absolutely dead awful. No one goes and watch it because it's a load of junk that's playing there. Players are getting whacked all over the field. Batting sides are chasing 300 in under 40 overs. I think that's where we should start. There's some sort of thing that I don't think SA Cricket can run their franchises properly, and they've showed with this global domestic
T20,
league, whatever, and that was a total shambles. SA Cricket is going to be in debt for the next 2 or 3 or 5 years, or even longer than that. So if I was SA Cricket now, I would sell all the clubs to private shareholders, because I don't think we can lose much quality from here. Our domestic structure needs to shape up or ship out, or there needs to be a lot more care and a lot more devotion shown with that regard. But before we get hooked on this topic for too long, who's going to win this World Cup?
Well, if I look at the 4 teams and I go purely on people that I think are world class and the amount of world class players in each team, I honestly think India is in my eyes the favourites. I think they've got 2 or 3 world class batsmen, people that are on the top 5 in the world. I think they've definitely got the best bowler in the world at the moment in Bumrah, They've got 2 quality spinners to back them up. So again, it's not really a team that bats deep necessarily with a bunch of all-rounders and stuff. And don't. It's not like I'm saying I don't appreciate a good all-rounder. Of course, a good all-rounder is weight worth in gold. It's a good all-rounder. But the fact of the matter is, India have world-class players in their team. They've got 6 very good batsmen. They've got 5 very good bowlers, and they've got a system, and they've got an inspiring captain in Virat Kohli. And I think under pressure, people like Kohli, Rohit Sharma, Bumrah, Chahal, those are the players that you'll expect to step up in those pressure situations. People that will turn 60s into 120s, and people that will bowl the last 5 overs and will go for 3 runs over. I think those are the players. They've got Dhoni as well. Been there, done that. Very good captain. Very positive in his field placings, in his tactics. Always looks one step ahead. But yes, if I have to pick a team, it'd probably be them. I do think, in all honesty, the 4 best teams in the world are in the semi-finals. I do think that this format that we're playing the World Cup in is a very fair format. It rewards the most consistent team. And these 4 teams, I think, are a step above the rest. I think there's a glaring gap between these 4 teams and teams like South Africa, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh. Even though there's been improvement in Bangladesh, I do think there's still quite a way to go. But yes, my pick will definitely go to India. And I think they'll probably play England in the final. And we'll probably see a packed house, a home game for India.
And is there anyone that disagrees with on India?
Yeah, well, I don't necessarily disagree, but I do think I agree with you. England-India final. I think. Well, firstly, I don't think England will be able to handle the pressure of a final. So in that, I agree with you that India will win it, but I think it will be much closer than we think. England has a really balanced squad, a very good batting lineup. They bat very deep, so they can score a lot of runs. But the pressure of the home fans, well, as you say, there's probably more Indian fans in England than England fans. But I think England has the better team. I just think the pressure will get to them in the final. So I agree with you that India will probably win this, although it'll be tight.
I think, actually, I'm going to disagree with both of you. I think Australia is going to take it because I think Australia are actually the surprise package of their World Cup. I was looking at the averages today, bowlers and batsmen, and they've actually really got an issue. It's fine when you start with Warner averaging 46, Finch averaging 40, Khawaja averaging 42, and Smith averaging 40. But they've got a very vulnerable middle to lower order. You've got Maxwell, who's either hit and miss, Stoinis hit and miss, Carey who's a hit and miss, and then you've got Cummins, Stark, Behrendorff, and Lyon. And the only real bowler that they have is Stark. He's the only one averaging under 25 in that bowling lineup. Lyon's average is 44. Behrendorff's is 30 for a pace bowler. That is terrible at this level of competition. And Cummins is also averaging 27. So I think they're playing phenomenally well for the amount of games that they lost. I think they only lost 2 or 3. I would have expected them to choke against someone like Pakistan or Bangladesh there's better Australian sides that have done much poorer in international competitions. So I think Australia's going to take it because they've got nothing to lose. They're going to go out against India. They're going to swing at everything. They're going to score 350 and win. Okay, so I think that's it. That's it for cricket for today. We'll probably check back in with it after the World Cup's over and we've seen the winner. So something Linda's been very excited about. Wimbledon started not that long ago.
Serious, man. You cannot be serious. That ball was on the line. Chalk flew up.
A couple of dramatic things have happened. So Linda, what dramatic things have happened?
Yes, well, thanks, Igor. But, yeah, get your strawberries and cream, ladies and gentlemen, because It's Wimbledon. Well, let's start with the gentlemen's singles, as they call it. Like, we'll just do a quick recap of the first week because we're well into the quarterfinals now. It's been rather disappointing, I must say, because at the start of before Wimbledon, there was much anticipation for the new young guys coming through. The Dominic Thiems, the Zverevs, and the Tsitsipas's of this world. And guess what? All three of them lost in the first round.
Don't forget about that. Who's that South African dude that played his first round against Federer?
Oh, Lloyd Harris. Oh,
Lloyd
he won
Harris.
the first set. It was absolutely brilliant.
I was so
We
excited
thought.
for him. I was actually surprised he wasn't seated higher. But anyway,
we after that first set, we thought he was going to pull it through, but no, we weren't. So in the end, it's again like it always is.
for the last 15 years.
For the last 15 years, it's Djokovic, Nadal, and Federer who are dominating Wimbledon again. I must say, it was a really exciting first week of Wimbledon. It started off with Nadal complaining about being the third seed, which I can understand in a way, just because of the draw he got. Like, he played Nick Kyrgios in the second round and Jo-Wilfried Tsonga in the third round. So, yeah, I could understand why he was complaining. But just quickly on his second round game with Nick Kyrgios.
Ooh.
Yes,
Yeah,
I think we can all agree with
Kyrgios.
that. We can all agree with that.
No, we
Kyrgios
can't
just
all
proved
agree with that.
again why he's probably the most hated sports person in the world after David Warner. But literally, the arrogance of this man, I don't know how many of you watched the game, the arrogance of this man has no boundaries. And literally, at the start of the game, I did not have much respect for him. At the end of the game, I had none. Like, he's just the worst person to play against. And you could see in Nadal's face, he hated him. And there was no way he was going to lose that game. For the rest, it's been pretty easy. Like, Djokovic has probably the easiest draw everyone's ever had. Like, the highest seed he will have to face before reaching the final will be the 21st seed in David Goffin, which I don't blame you if you don't know him. But really, like, he's walking to the final, and it does not look as if anyone can beat him, though. You guys could chip in here. There's like he'll make the final, that's for sure. He has an easy run in. My prediction is a Federer-Nadal semi, which I can't wait for. I think it'll be an absolute cracker, but I think it will be so good and so intense that the winner of that game will be dead by Sunday and won't be able to match Djokovic in intensity or any level. So I predict an easy win.
Take real exception with you hating on Nick Kyrgios. I think his arrogance is a mental game. He wants to get into the head of his opponent. And the reason he wants to do that is so he can steal points with his underarm serve. And that's not being arrogant. That's playing the game smart. That's really playing the game smart. And Nick Kyrgios and Andy Murray are my most favorite tennis players of all time, because they don't care what anybody thinks of them. They're just there to play their tennis and go home with their trophies.
And that's why Igor doesn't have any friends. Moving
That was
on,
a bit
Kevin
harsh.
Anderson did a Proteas.
Yes.
Against
losing out in the third
Fallout?
round. No, am I right?
In the third round,
Third
yes.
round.
But
Sad
it-
for all South African fans.
But it was
But
also
there is
against
still hope for South African fans, because
Klaasen.
Raven Klaasen and his New Zealand partner Michael Venus got to the quarterfinals of the doubles, the men's doubles, and the Bryan brothers lost. So the doubles is there for the taking. Anyone that's really just a lottery. So anyone can win that. And as for the women, Well, like predicting a women's Wimbledon winner is like predicting how Messi's going to play in an Argentina shirt. You just don't know what's going to happen. He
But
might
you know
score
it's
a
gonna
hat
be
trick, he
there.
might get
You
a
know
red
it's gonna
card.
happen, but you just don't know what it's going to be. And I don't know, for me, I love watching the women's tennis because I learn so many new players by the time the fourth round comes along. I just started liking Osaka, and now there was this American chick, that 15-year-old girl that destroyed everyone. Now I need to learn her name as well. And I mean, we're not even past the quarterfinals. So exciting stuff. Andy, do you want to weigh in on some Wimbledon tennis? You're very quiet over there.
Yes, well, I'm quite disappointed in the men's. I am a Federer fan through and through, but let's be honest, we all want to see some young talent coming through. It's been 15 years now with the big three dominating every single tournament, especially Wimbledon. And yes, I do agree with Linda. I think Roger Federer and Rafael Nadal will probably play an epic match in the semi-finals, and I do think the winner of that will be a bit tight, a bit tired, fatigued, and will struggle against Djokovic. It's sad to see, but yes.
Yeah, I think all of us can agree the way Djokovic is playing now. Unless something really spectacular happens, like he breaks a femur or Goffin decides to become the best player in the history of tennis overnight, I can't see Djokovic not winning it. So I think we'll just move on quite fluidly from the tennis to our biggest sports story of the week.
Quite a number of our lineouts, so it's easy for us to sit here and say we should have pushed him inside the 22 and kept him there.
Which is the mighty Crusaders rugby team that has won their 10th Super Rugby title in a Super Rugby competition watched by all 5 fans in Loftus and people putting on background noise while having a braai on a Saturday. So how bad is the quality of Super Rugby now versus like 10 years ago?
Well, you were looking at Super Rugby, obviously the quality has dropped dramatically. I believe the quality will only drop even more after the World Cup when everybody moves to Europe. The Super Rugby brand isn't what it was, and I think there needs to be a major shake-up. I think Southern Hemisphere rugby should follow the blueprint that they do in the Northern Hemisphere, privatizing all the clubs, bringing in money and focus on development, academies, structures, and so on. The quality this year was very poor, and you can see that looking at the crowd attendances throughout the tournament.
I agree with you, Chris. There's no way we can, or even any of the Southern Hemisphere teams, can compete with the European teams. We can't keep our best players. It's not in the best interest of the player himself to stay in South Africa and get his match fees here, because literally he has a career until 35 and then has to be financially sorted for the rest of his life. So really you can't blame anyone for leaving to Europe and doing what he's good at and getting the money to... We just don't have the money to compete with the European clubs.
And it's not just that. I mean, if you don't sign for Europe, you're going to end up playing against your 3rd and 4th rate centres and fly-offs and whatever. I mean, if you're Dan du Preez, you don't want to play against sub-80 kilogram flanks every game, because that's what you're up against in South Africa. The same for Dwayne Vermeulen. If you're serious about your game and you're serious about rugby, that's not something you are gonna think about doing if you plan to play competitive rugby for quite a while and if you want to remain on the top of your game. So I think definitely, and it's gotten past the point where it's not a South African problem anymore. I mean, we've seen with New Zealand, Malachi Fekitoa went overseas, Supawanga, Cruden. These are all guys that could have acted to make Super Rugby a lot more challenging. I mean, they're not bad flyers by any stretch. They can still, beef up the Super Rugby quite significantly. But I mean, I'm not going to say no to a 8 million rand contract per year to play for Toulon. Never in my life.
Oh, well, I do feel like Sanzar made the right decision. Sanzar, as they are now, with Argentina. But they made the right decision to going back to the old format of Super Rugby from 2021, where everyone will just play everyone
Round robin,
once in a round-robin round, and the top 4 or top 8 will make the knockout rounds. Because this conference type of thing where you play 2 local derbies a year, it's really not working. If I have to watch one more game of 2 Australian teams playing against each other, there's just no way. Like, you can't. It's literally impossible to stay awake for that 80 minutes. So that's a step in the right direction, but that won't make much of a difference because every year more and more players. I think there's about 10 of the Lions players at the end of the season going overseas.
Bulls as well, yeah.
And even the Bulls as well. And there's just, with the quality of players we're losing, there's no way you can promote Super Rugby as being competitive and being this good advert for rugby, because the quality is just not good enough.
But let's chat a bit. Obviously, we know that the Crusaders, I could have told you the first week of Super Rugby, the Crusaders is going to destroy absolutely everyone and they're going to win it. I don't think there was any real other contender. They led all the stats attacking-wise except defenders beaten, meters run, tries, offloads. The only place where they were not top was set pieces, lineouts and rucks. But all the other stats they led from the get-go. But let's chat about, were the Jaguares or Argentina's World Cup team, should I rather say, were they truly the second best team in Super Rugby this year?
Well, I personally do think they were the second best team. I think it's the first time in a long while where the 2 best teams in the competition aren't 2 New Zealand teams. I think it's the first time in 4 years that a team that is not a New Zealand team is the second best team. The Jaguars went to New Zealand in the pool stages and they competed well. They won a couple of games. They were consistent, especially towards the end of the season. The Jaguars really did themselves proud this year. I do think this is the Jaguars team that we expected we would see when they first came into Super Rugby, but I think a couple of critical things changed in the team. I think their discipline is much better than it was 2 years ago. I think a couple of the leaders stood up this season, and I honestly think Argentina are again peaking at the right time. It's a couple of months before the Rugby World Cup, and I do think that this Jaguars team playing together week in, week out, barring a couple of overseas-based players, 4 or 5 of them coming in, this is going to be the exact same team going to the World Cup. So I do expect Argentina to form a couple of upsets on the World Cup.
Well, they are also in the group of death, if I'm not mistaken.
They are in the group of death, but they're also 1-35 on odds. So if you want to place a bet,
Argentina's the way to go.
Argentina is the way to go. I mean, if you want to go for the safe money, pick the All Blacks. They're 1-2 at the moment, 1-2.2. So, I mean, your money's safe there, but you won't make a lot. But I honestly think Argentina, they have relaxed their policies of picking overseas-based players. They've picked a couple of quality props that will definitely strengthen their scrum, which I think was lacking in the final. I think they've got a well-balanced side, actually. I think they've got quality forwards. I think one of the best flankers in the world at the moment, Pablo Matera, their captain, had an amazing Super Rugby final and amazing season. I think he's just going from strength to strength. And I do expect Argentina to at least run a couple of quality sides in the group of death to the final whistle. And don't be so surprised if they actually qualify and make it to the semis. Argentina traditionally plays very, very well in World Cups. So let's see. But yes, I think for the Jaguars and for Argentina Rugby, this year has been a success so far.
Well, I have to say I agree with Enid here because Argentina historically has done really well in World Cups. I remember the 2007 World Cup, the one we won. They played in the opening game against France. They beat them at the start of France. These are South American people, they are passionate. They play on emotion, and World Cups are all about emotion. They get psyched for a game. I don't know what they do in the dressing room. I don't think I want to know.
Just like Argentina's football team. Get psyched up and perform in big games.
Yes, but they're playing other South American teams which are more passionate. But my point is, I really do think they'll do well in the World Cup. I do think they'll get out of the group into the knockout phases.
Okay, so I think that wraps up our rugby, and let's just cap off a couple of other smaller things that happened throughout the week. We're going to keep them sweet and short and to the point, so let's not go on about them for much too long. So, obviously, Bafana beating Egypt / Mohamed Salah in a gritty game in Egypt, knocking out the hosts with Tebben Corsi Lorch with a winner.
Well, I have to say it was a really impressive performance by Bafana. It was the type of performance we last saw in the 1996 AFCON when we won it. Not that I was watching, but I'm sure that was the type of football we were playing. So solid defensively, and just it was like Salah wasn't even there. Kept him so quiet, just dominated him defensively. He had nowhere to go, and really got the deserved winner in the 85th minute. Like,
classic comment from Arsenal fan. I actually saw that goal. It was actually pretty well. I have to give that to Bafana. I don't agree with everything they do, but it was a pretty nice counter.
The classic
goal.
Torres counter.
If you guys want to hear a significant stat, if you look at the African Cup of Nations, Tebben Corsi Lorch has 1 AFCON goal and Lionel Messi has none.
Bah.
So Igor, do you see him as a future Ballon d'Or winner?
I mean, he has to, and I think he plays for a pretty good PSL team. I'm not sure which one, because I only this year found out what PSL stands for. But in any case, definitely, if Messi wins the Ballon d'Or and Tebben Corsi Lorch doesn't, then obviously FIFA is corrupt and rigged. But speaking about FIFA being corrupt and rigged, USA won the Women's World Cup.
In other news, Brazil won the Copa America
for the first time in 12 years.
That's pretty impressive. And now Firmino has 2 beautiful little trophies in his trophy room, which is 2 more than Tottenham have won the last 20 years.
But he hasn't looked at them once. Yes, and in other sport news.
So
the oldest rugby tournament in the world starts this weekend. Please don't punish yourself by watching the Currie Cup. The Tour de France also started this week, so rather watch that.
Yeah, amen, brother. Preach.
Please. I don't wish it on my worst enemy that you would have to sit through a whole Currie Cup game.
No, for me the thing is with the Currie Cup game, I'll just put it on in the background while I'm turning my choppies, because there's something relaxing about Hugh Bladen's voice. And I don't know why, but they haven't given him an international game to commentate for quite some time. So he'll definitely be on the Currie Cup waves, and it'll make for some nice background noise. Also, Mr. Marc Marquez is making it 6 out of 8 at the German GP. Is anyone going to catch him? Maybe. Hotel Trivago. This has been boys sitting on a couch and chatting ball. Please, if you don't agree with the stuff we're saying, please comment below, like us, share us, and subscribe to us. And we'll see you next week. Peace out.